But what worries me about Ryan Tannehill, because I'm so confused, his arm strength, I don't know if he got hit and he got hurt, but his arm strength, I thought, was sorely lacking trying to get the ball into tight windows compared to how he normally is able to zip it in.
All right, so I want to I've seen some comments about that already. There's a lot of you guys that want to talk offensive line, pressure, receivers being open, Tannehill's arm strength. There's a lot of things that kind of all go together. So we're going to try to kind of work them all together into the conversation. I want to go to the beginning of the game and the start of the season and sort of the first few series. It felt like Ryan Tannehill was seeing ghosts from the start of the game. There's one play early in the game where he has a clean pocket and he like stands and then like runs right into the back of Chris Hubbard, who's blocking, I believe, Cam Jordan at the time. And then he turns and kind of works his way back to the line of scrimmage. Maybe it was a no gain, maybe it was a sack. But he basically didn't have to move. He could have just kept going through his progressions. And he felt like, there's obviously a clock in your head when you're a quarterback and you sort of get the urgency that you need to move.
His clock was a little broken.
But to that extent, and I know you and I are going to disagree on the offensive line to some degree. I don't disagree a ton with you, but I think that he was under more pressure than I think the analytics will indicate. Some of that was on him, though. Some of that was the way he felt it a little prematurely. He moved a little prematurely and went on the run, did not make a lot of great throws. The underthrows on the 3 interceptions. I don't – it's interesting that I rewatched it this morning, and I did not come away questioning the arm strength. Because I feel like there was a couple of throws, like there's still plenty of throws that he made where he hits Nick Westbrook-Akine on an out route on the opposite hash pretty squarely, and frankly, the Chig and the Tajay Spears throw, which are the throws that you're talking about, where 2 receivers are wide open that would have scored touchdowns if he made accurate throws. They were like overcompensating for the 3 interceptions that were underthrows to some weird degree. He was off. If you want to call it injured last year, new offensive system, new offensive line, new this, crowd noise, whatever you want to call it, the system didn't look like the problem. We'll get to that. It looked like Ryan Tannehill up here in his head. I did not see the physical problems with Ryan Tannehill.
He had no velocity in some of his throws, and he has had velocity. I'm not questioning really arm strength in terms of how far he can throw it. Even though that he was very inconsistent in that area.
Yeah.
I felt like he lacked velocity. He lacked zip. And it felt like they were floaters. They were just kind of like you're waiting for them to get there, and then you're waiting just for them to be picked off. And that's just not on the interceptions. This is on every throw that he attempted. I thought the overarching theme was he looked like Father Time got his claws into him, is how I felt. And
there's that conclusion thing being challenged.
Yeah, well, like that's like if I'm looking at his particular performance and his throws, I'm like, man, how do I not think that maybe this guy just dropped off? And because it happens, right? It could be very sudden for players. They can look good one week, and then for the rest of the year, they're just looking bad. It's crazy how Father Time works. Only very few people can beat Father Time. I'm not putting my money that Ryan Tannehill is one of those few people.
Yeah.
But I am a little surprised that if this is the case, that it is starting right now, because all the reports have been really good from training camp. And so to me,
his arm did look good most of camp.
So
I will say that.
I'm still on boat outlier. But I'm teetering off the edge. Like if a wave comes crashing through, I may just be in the deep end, drowning, asking for a lifesaver by the USS Will Levis. Because let me say this: this whole Ryan Tannehill thing, I want to lean after seeing them start Dennis Daly for 15 games last year, despite all evidence to the contrary that they should. Ryan Tannehill's gonna have a lot of rope.
Oh,
now
God,
he may not have as much rope as we think, depending on the level of performances from game to game. Like he may only have 3 games of yesterday's performance, including yesterday. Like if he plays that way in week 2 and week 3, he's gone. It's very unlikely, but that's what it is. I'm skipping over Malik Willis. If Ryan Tannehill's ever to get benched and the game is and the season's out of reach and they're just kind of done, I'm skip over Malik Willis, put in Will Levis. Let's just do it. Because
I think it needs to be longer. I agree with you. I think it needs to be longer than even two more bad games.
It would have to be 2 more this level bad games.
I guess.
Listen, if you start 0-3, Braden, and you go 0 touchdowns and 9 interceptions over 3 games, that bad. Guy's getting benched.
I mean, I mean, I see it when you say it like that, Zach.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, but let's say okay. Let's do the thing that is the most likely. Like, let's say he has slightly. Let's say that not even most likely. Let's play out the worst case scenario. But even in the worst case scenario, they're still better than the games are still better than what he did on Sunday against the Saints. They're going to be, because again, he's never been worse. So like in 163 regular season games, that was the worst one potentially. So let's add 20 or 30% of production, 40% production, whatever you want to call it. I think I had him going 2-4 in the first 6 games. It's the toughest stretch of the season. I think that he has through that chunk to show that he's still the starting quarterback. Because I think this conversation about like, whoa, what about Willis? What about Levis? I think this conversation is a million times too early.
Well,
I don't think either guy is ready. I don't think that gives him a better chance to win than Tannehill. And I
agree.
So I think it's way too premature and kind of silly.
I think it's just mainly ifs, but I do agree with Stoney, who says that hearing Vrabel presser today made me think Tannehill might not have quite as long as the leash as we think. You know, we'll see. I'm kind of like teetering on it. How big of a leash does Ryan Tannehill get with 2 quarterbacks, especially one that they drafted pretty high? We'll see. The other thing is there are reports from people in attendance at the Saints game who are watching the sidelines, because obviously the people in the press box are watching, the game, but we're watching the sidelines, saying that Malik Willis towards the end of the game was doing a lot of warming up on the sidelines right behind Vrabel. Don't know what that means. Could just be maybe they were gearing up for some trick plays if they got the ball back, which is dangerous line of thinking if you're going to put Malik Willis on the field in like crucial game moments.
That seems far-fetched.
I'm just saying what happened. Yeah. I'm not saying that anything is coming from it. I'm just saying what really, truly happened behind the scenes that we are not privy to because of the broadcast angle. But I do think, I don't know how many bad performances Ryan Tannehill can rack up before the bye week, right? Like if he's really just kind of like Matt Ryan-esque bad, and they're 2-4, I could see maybe a bye week change. But man, that's a guy like him.
That's what I was checking. Is the bye week after the Ravens game in London?
Yes,
that's right. So it's
after week 6,
the 22nd, 23rd. Okay, yeah, that's the time to me, man. That's the time.
You would think, I look at players that they continue to play that have built up less goodwill than Ryan Tannehill has. I mean, like Dennis Daly has 0 goodwill and started all those games.
Yep.
But yesterday's performance was just so bad. I don't think that if Tannehill puts up like a 220-yard, 1 touchdown, 1 interception performance, that's good to them. I mean, unless it's like a back-breaking interception.
Well, that performance, and maybe it doesn't beat like elite teams. I mean, maybe it doesn't beat the Chargers in a shootout. But in that game, that performance would have won the game.
Yeah.
Like if that stat line you just gave us in that game on Sunday against the Saints wins the football game. Now, again, maybe that one throw is to Tajay Spears down the sideline where he puts it just literally like inches. There was another throw to Tajay Spears that was a very difficult throw in the corner of the end zone earlier in the game that was almost a unbelievable throw. And it was like 3 inches too high. So it's not, I don't think that the whole thing
Spears just have been a little bit taller.
Maybe if he had that ACL, which only was mentioned on the broadcast one time. I was proud of the broadcast for only mentioning it one time. I think, so to me, I didn't see like, well, yes, it was bad. And yes, it was an outlier. And yes, it looked mental. To me, it looked like he was seeing ghosts early. And then he kind of settled in. There's a new system, new scheme, new O-line, new receivers, new everything.
I don't know if he ever, I never really felt like he settled in. Like I've never felt less confident with Ryan Tannehill having to throw the ball than I did yesterday all through the game. Everything made me hold my breath or close like one of my eyes. Like it was, that's how
the last two. So the last 2 drives though, I mean, the last 2 drives were like 2 of the longest drives of the game, and he kind of needed to. They had to throw a lot in those 2 drives, and this is where I want to kind of get into how much help did he get, because I think you and I would agree on over the top that, like, I think the players. I mean, look there's a lot of good to like about what we saw from the scheme with Tim Kelly. There's a lot of NWI was open a lot. Like there was a lot of really smart calls. The screen pass to Derrick Henry, throwing the ball, play action. I thought there was a lot of good stacking of plays where they'd pick up 6 yards and then they'd go right to play action. Like, I thought there was some good stuff that Tim Kelly was doing. But like, there's some usage questions I have. They fed the ball to Burks basically in like a really tiny period of time where he got like 2 good plays and then dropped a pass and then like wasn't seen from before or after. Chig was targeted on the very first play of the game and got 1 target the rest of the way. Tajay Spears played more snaps than Derrick Henry. NWI played more snaps than DeAndre Hopkins.